As soon as she pans back around, I'll
Yes.
start.
Yes. She likes to get a pan.
That's good. We actually do have 5 people in the room.
She's good.
Good evening, everybody. Thank you so much for coming. I am the Ulster County Controller. My name is March Gallagher. I'm thrilled to be here today, and I want to thank the town of Shandaken for hosting us. And to that effect, I would also like to note a few folks in the room associated with the town and our other elected officials. I first want to note that we have Pete DeSclafani, the town supervisor, here, along with 2 council people, Robert Drake, Kevin Van Blarkum. Thank you guys for coming. Joyce Grant, the town clerk, who serves on the Citizens Commission for Digital Inclusion. She's on my right. And to my left, I have Jenny Lee, the chair of the Citizens Commission for Digital Inclusion. Jenny resides part-time in Denning, so she knows what you're facing in Shandaken as far as connectivity goes. We also have a representative here from Congressman Mark Molinaro's office, and that is Alex Horton. Alex, thank you very much for joining us. He really wanted to hear what people here have to say. And I also wanted to note that Kathy Nolan, the legislator for this district, is in legislative meetings in Kingston and regrets not being able to be here tonight, but she would be otherwise if she wasn't sitting at the Ways and Means table right now. So we really appreciate the opportunity to come here and speak to you tonight, and most importantly, we want to hear what people in Shandaken have to say. We have agendas here at the front of the room, and Daphne, raise your hand, is walking around with a sign-up sheet. We just want to make sure we know who's in the room so we can contact you later. So please fill out your contact information with Daphne when she comes around. And if you need an agenda, please just feel free to walk up. This is not, I know we're at this big table and it looks formal, but it doesn't have to be that way. So please come get an agenda so you can see what we're going to be talking about tonight. One of the other services that the Comptroller's Office is going to be offering tonight, if you want, is to look up your unclaimed funds. So, you know, the State Comptroller's Office aggregates any funds from banks or insurance agencies that lapse, where the vendor can't find you. They go back to the state, and then the state holds those funds for you. We can help you look up those funds if you're interested. Please, Daphne has her laptop set up, and she can help you as we move through the meeting look up any unclaimed funds. I also want to note that we have Elizabeth Nissel here. Did I say that name right?
Yes. Yes.
Yes. All right.
Nissel.
Okay. Nissel. Okay, great. So town board member from Shandaken. So thank you very much for joining us. I really appreciate that. I also see that the county planner, Dennis Doyle, just joined us in the room. Thank you, Dennis. Thanks for coming with us today. So welcome tonight. We are going to definitely hold this to an hour because the Shandaken Town Board is going to be having their regular meeting here at 7 o'clock. And we are going to move through some materials where we share with you some of the things that we've done, but then we really want to hear from you. This meeting is being recorded. It'll be up on YouTube, and it's on channel 23 as we're going through this. So hopefully, hi to our audience who couldn't make it here tonight. We welcome your input as well if you can reach out to us at a later time and you have things you want to share. So without further ado, I'm going to talk a little bit about what we've done and why we're here. Up to this point, we have collected a lot of information from people about their access to broadband online. Do you have a problem with broadband? Please send us an email. Please fill out a form. Please use this QR code. We realize that that is not an effective way to gather public information about people's access to broadband when they don't have broadband, and they can't tell you that. So this meeting is the first of several meetings that we're going to have throughout the county to gather people's input about their experience with broadband. Last year, in 2022, we knew that there was going to be federal funding coming for broadband and infrastructure. And at that time, we realized that we really needed to update the mapping of broadband in Ulster County. And I think the last mapping that had really been put forward publicly was done in 2012. This was now 2022, 10 years had gone by, and we had not updated the maps. How did we make these maps? We handed town supervisors like Pete a map with a highlighter, and we said, go, show us every road that doesn't have broadband. And honestly, that's the best way to do it, because elected officials get the complaints from citizens who cannot access the service. We took all the supervisors' maps in the county. We put it together, we put it on GIS, and you can actually access the broadband map. There are materials here that we've handed out today. Again, this only works if you actually are connected, but you can access the county broadband map through this QR code on the back of your agenda. So we work to map broadband throughout the county, and then we put the map out publicly, and we solicited feedback from people in the community about whether or not the map was appropriate. At the same time, we launched a Citizens Commission for Digital Inclusion, and that group of folks has been instrumental in pushing our work forward, because what we did is we took every person that we thought was like sort of the most energized person around broadband in their community, and we invited them to serve. Like every annoying broadband gadfly in the county is on this commission. Am I right, Jenny? Right? Yes. In fact, I went to a pancake, this is how I met Jenny. I went to a pancake breakfast in Denning and at the firehouse, and they said, oh, have you met Jenny Lee? She's ridden her bicycle through all of Denning, taking pictures of telephone poles to see what's on the poles. And I was like, who is that woman? I need to meet her right away. So Jenny is one of the members of the commission, and these are people who feel incredibly passionate about broadband because they know how important it is for education, for business, for civic engagement, for healthcare, and just to sort of conduct everyday life these days, including your access to recreation and entertainment. The commission worked to promote the broadband map, gathered feedback from that map, and it turned out that that was an incredibly timely thing to do, because shortly after we finished the map, the Federal Communications Commission issued a federal map and said, please identify places where the federal map is wrong. And if we had not done the work up front with the town supervisors, with people in the community, there's no way we would have been ready to work on the challenges that needed to be filed at the federal level to identify places where they had the locations wrong. We identified about 1,100 properties that are not served by broadband. Some of those properties are long driveway properties, so it's not that there's not broadband on the road, it's that the broadband that's on the road is too expensive to bring down the driveway. And we identified that there's this myth, right, that only rich people have long driveways. I can tell you that is not true, right? There are plenty of people who are moderate and low income who have long driveways who cannot afford a $40,000 connection fee to bring it down the driveway. So we, in putting together the challenge for the county, we put together a bulk challenge that was every address in the county. We also worked with individual folks on individual challenges, knowing that it would mean a lot more to the Federal Communications Commission if we challenged it twice, once at the county level and once at the individual property owner level. And through that process, commission members worked directly with individuals in the community to help them file challenges, and we learned some incredibly important details about what is hampering real access in Ulster County. I want to pause, and I'm going to turn it over to Jenny Lee to talk about some of the findings that we came across from working with community members on the FCC challenge. Jenny.
Thank you, March. Thank you, March. Is this working?
I think it is.
Yeah, you have to get a little
Great.
closer. That's all.
Hooray. All right. First of all, I have to say that it takes vision, courage, and leadership to put together a citizens commission. We're not employed by the county. We're not elected officials. So
let's put this to the side, maybe. Yeah.
thank you.
Perfect.
So I thank March for that kind of vision and leadership. And she assembled an incredible team that just keeps building, and we've engaged a lot of partners. So back to the FCC challenge, which was in the second week of January, we had a 5-day window to assist individuals. It's called a consumer challenge, in addition to the bulk challenge filed by the county. So the outreach we did included contacting town supervisors, have them get the word out. We provided a step-by-step illustrated online guide about how to check information on the address and file a challenge to correct any inaccuracies. there are two types of inaccuracies. One is where the location does not exist, or where the location exists and it is incorrectly marked as being served or underserved with broadband. So, we provided telephone and or email assistance to those who requested it. We found that the most effective outreach was by paper. This was the Shawangang Journal, Facebook, and then word of mouth. So in helping individuals one-on-one by telephone, we learned that many of them lacked the ability to use the internet, very basic skills like, you know, what is your desktop? What is your cursor? You know, different parts of keyboard. And that seems to have a correlation to age, income level, and just literacy generally. They also lacked devices. Some devices were out of date. We had glitches while working through the challenge, and they had no option for connection except for really expensive, really unreliable satellite service. So the most touching thing for me was to actually talk to them, and there's a kind of cycle, like a very negative cycle that goes on when somebody doesn't have the correct tools and the extent of knowledge and ability. They get frustrated, and then they get even more frustrated when they start to talk about, they give me the personal narratives about how they're trying to get spectrum. So that was with the FCC challenge. The second one had to do with helping people take the Internet Access Survey, and that was in the last couple of months. And one other thing that came to light was that there are some people who are really, really poor. You know, they are struggling with just basic needs, and they can't afford even like $25 a month broadband. And you know that it costs a lot more here. So, and during the Internet Access Survey assistance, there's also another barrier, and that's language, and again, age and literacy.
Thank you. So we didn't really realize when we were sort of beginning to think about putting together a plan for digital equity that equipment was going to be an issue, that digital literacy was going to be an issue, that language was going to be an issue. And so it really changed. We had really just been thinking, like, just run fiber everywhere and you're done. No, that's not true. People are not going to be connected just because you run fiber. So this really brings us to sort of the third part of this agenda, where we want to talk a little bit about this draft digital plan for the county. And we want people to give us feedback on it. It hasn't been adopted yet. This is just a proposal. But what we learned is that we have to include the opportunity to train people on digital literacy, and we have to do it not just in English and not just in Spanish, but in Quechua, which is not a language I was even familiar with, but is very common in the immigrant population in Kingston, for example. And we have to do it in a way that we reach seniors in all of our communities who may not really have access and the literacy to access these services going forward. As the commission met over months, I think it's what are we, 15 or 16 months now, we were able to make connections that really have been invaluable. And I just want to call out Margaretville Telephone, who is here. Glenn Faulkner, please raise your hand, the head of the company. Margaretville Telephone is one of those companies that we were able to connect with and actually connect to the town of Shandaken that has provided a substantial improvement in service here. What happened was one of our commission members, the town supervisor for the town of Olive, Jim Sifranco, said, hey, did you guys hear that Margaretville Telephone is running fiber from Xena Road out 28 to Delaware County? No. Can you introduce us? He brought us together with the company, and we learned that they were going to be, implementing this middle mile program that was going to run fiber, which is going to create competition for spectrum, which is terrific. But more importantly, we were able to bring them together with Robert Drake and the town of Shandaken, and they were able to bring fiber through Phoenicia. There is now broadband in Phoenicia as a result of this work that hadn't been there previously. I said to Jenny, we can quit now. We brought broadband to Phoenicia. That's the best thing that the commission could have seen happen. So that's an example of the type of collaboration that we hope that this plan will bring together. I want you to turn to, if you have your handout here, to the last couple of pages, and you can see that there is a draft plan here. This plan is really just bare bones. This is really a budget with a few descriptions. But the goal here really is to make sure that we hit all of the weak spots that we talked about earlier. Not just running fiber, but also supporting equipment purchases, urban literacy, which may need to be in multiple languages and may hit different populations, rural literacy, which may involve working through senior centers and reaching different types of populations in rural areas of the county, raising community awareness about what's there, addressing the long driveway issue. We've had conversations with New York State, Empire State Development, and the Connect All program to say, we really want to make sure that there is some way to address long driveway problems, that it cannot just be fiber on the road that is not going to get it done. And I know it's hard to figure out a way to do it because those properties are owned by certain people and that benefits the property owner. But the truth of the matter is, we would never let you build a house and say, we're not bringing electric down the driveway, right? It's too expensive. No, you want a building permit, you're gonna bring electric, and you're gonna make sure we have some sort of septic, water or sewer at the property. And we need to start thinking like that about broadband. So in addition to long driveway issues, we talked about wired network infrastructure. That's really the biggest part of this plan. We anticipate that it could be over $7 million to finish what's out there in the county. And finally, to provide some sort of point to multi-point fixed wireless that could really assist, help us with, non-fiber, but through the air sort of connectivity. And I want to just say something and pause for a moment to talk about emergency services, because there's a gentleman who came here and said to me, I'm here about cellular. We at the commission get complaints about cellular all the time. I know it's a huge issue. I know it's a safety issue. And until we have good fiber, it is very hard to build out the towers necessary to do cellular. So there are a number of towers proposed that are being looked at in locations in Shandaken, and we are really hopeful those happen. So this is sort of a chicken and egg scenario where we really need to make sure that the fiber is there to support the cell towers. I don't know about you guys. I didn't know. I'm a layperson. And my vision of cellular was like, I call, my phone connects to the tower, and the tower shoots out into the air and reaches other towers. That is not how it works. I call, it goes to the tower, it goes to the fiber backhaul, and that's how my call is transported. So these problems are really interconnected, and I anticipate that once this commission works through the fiber problems and the connectivity problems, you're going to see us turn more to cellular and advocating for cellular. I remember 10 years ago or more, there was one cell phone in Shandaken right next to a garage, and Chuck Perez, was it his garage? Okay, Chuck Perez's garage. This is how I met Chuck. Verizon wanted to take that pay phone out of that location. And Chuck Perez and I wound up getting on the phone, and he said to me, people use that phone all the time. You can't get rid of it. And Verizon said, well, there were only 20 calls last year. We said, well, where were the calls to? It was like there were 20 calls, and 17 of them were to 911, right? Because people could not get a cellular connection. They could only use that pay phone to call 911. So we know how important it is for public safety and for emergency management. And, that is definitely part of the conversation here. So we welcome you to take this plan home, look it over. If you are on the internet, you can check our website. All these materials will be up there tomorrow morning. And please give us feedback and comments. We want to know what people think. We want your ideas about ways to improve it. And we are working in these coalition formats with other people in the region. I'm going to turn it over back to Jenny for a minute to talk about the Southeast Coalition and some of the other partners. And then we're going to pause and we want to hear from you. I was tempted to call it a broadband session, but I decided we should call it a town hall instead, because we really want to hear what people's experiences have been in the community. So Jenny, if you could tell us a little about some of our partners, that would be great.
Thank you, March. We're part of a larger system here, and our regional partner for digital equity, not so much the infrastructure, is Southeastern New York Library Resource Council. And through them, we work with Connect All, New York State Connect All, that's the New York State Broadband Office. And we are on the New York State Digital Equity Task Force, from which there are 3 subcommittees. And we work on all those 3 committees, and they include Education Committee, Subcommittee, Workforce Training, and Civic and Community Engagement. And in addition to that larger framework, we have partners, at the county level and at the state level. In addition to Kathy Nolan from the legislature, we have had the following standing liaisons from the following offices. Director of Planning, Dennis Doyle. New York Senator Michelle Hinchy's office, and that would be Emma Cohn. And I think those are the standing liaisons. So it's on the last page of the digital equity plan if you want to check it out.
So we are not alone. We're working in these larger groups, and we're really hoping to ensure that Ulster County is front in line to get whatever funding is coming our way. Now, we don't know exactly how the funding is going to work. We don't know whether it's going to be that the state puts out a giant request for proposals and then accepts vendors who come in and skips the county level altogether, or whether they're going to say, hey, each county, here's your share, or whether there's going to be some other way that the money is distributed. But what we do know is that we are going to push to make sure that our up-to-date maps clearly demonstrate who is not served, so that we make sure that we're getting served inside of Ulster County and with our partners, around Sullivan, Delaware, et cetera. I also want to mention, income has been an issue. There was a $30 subsidy per month subsidy. That really doesn't cut it. I don't know about you, but my broadband bill is way more than $30 a month. And we saw a lot of families during the pandemic who were trying to provide educational resources really struggle to pay that monthly cable fiber bill. That level has been bumped up to $75, and there is a QR code where you could access that here through these materials. We brought a copy of the application if anybody wants help filling it out. It is like a 7-page nightmare, but we would definitely put some staff to help anyone in the room or anyone online who comes to our office and wants help accessing that, because we should be getting these resources to make sure people at all income levels are able to access the internet here in Ulster County. I'm going to pause and ask if folks have any questions. If you do, please come to the podium. And I also would love for everybody who has had any experience accessing broadband or cellular here to come to the mic and share their story with us. It really means a lot to us. We have materials here from the state comptroller, the agenda materials, and also Daphne is definitely available to look up unclaimed funds. So if anybody has anything they'd like to share, we'd love to hear your thoughts. Say your name and what town you live in, and then tell us.
My name is.
Oh.
Is that?
My name is Alan Hirsch. I live in Chichester for the last 23 years. I think everyone in town knows me because I've been trying to advocate for cell service. The broadband that I have through Spectrum is continuously either going out or working very slowly. I've replaced routers, I've replaced my cell phone. My Wi-Fi calling, which I use frequently, consistently has dropped calls or the phone never rings. I also have people that knock on my door in the middle of the night because they've had emergencies on the road and they have no way of communicating for emergency. I'm very concerned about this no cell service, but I do understand what you brought out, that you have to have the fiber. Will the fiber, should it go through, cover everyone up to 14, or will it just be for those that don't have service at the moment?
I mean, what we're looking to do is make sure that there is fiber for everyone up to 14. Yeah.
Okay, I appreciate you explaining that this cell phone signal doesn't just go from your phone to the tower, because
Yeah.
that's what a lot of us are under the impression of. Thank you.
Thank you. Come on, I know the rest of you have had a hard time getting service. We'd love to hear about it. Come tell us about it. Thank you.
I left my tinfoil hat at home tonight, but I am going to say that I'm not a huge fan of the idea of having cell towers in my neck of the woods. I live in Chichester, by the way. My name is Stephanie Gindel. I was just wondering if that does happen, will there be regulations in place as far as distancing from homes and schools?
I don't have the answer to that, but Stephanie, I will definitely get back to you. Did you sign our sign-in sheet?
I did.
And I will come back to you with what the rules are and what I learn about it. Yeah. Yes, absolutely. How about other folks?
I'm Sophie in Shandaken. I'm fortunate to have Wi-Fi at my house and pretty regular speed. However, with no rhyme or reason, the price just keeps going up, 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 and up. And I only have Wi-Fi service. I don't have whatever other services or packages supposedly drive your price down. And I just hate playing that game. I don't want stuff I don't need. But it kind of has pretty much doubled since I moved here. So there's not a lot I can do because, like you said, there's no other competition. But I do think it's part of the problem. And I know Joyce has been like surveying people and asking what they're quoted. And it's just so hard to understand what we should be paying and how we could advocate for more fair pricing and transparency.
Great suggestions. Thank you for bringing that forward. I hadn't really been thinking about that, like what people's individual bills are. Because, please come forward. You call and you say, I'm going to cut my service, and suddenly they give you a new plan. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a game everybody ends up playing
Yeah.
about the service. So I have two things. I have a neighbor that I help out who's on a fixed income. And after she pays her rent, she gets subsidized rent and stuff like that. She has $90 a month for all her other expenses. So having internet is out of the question for her.
Right.
And when I was a kid, we had rabbit ears and we had 11 channels, and that's what you had. And now it seems like if you don't pay for it, you don't get television service.
Right.
And it's really unfair to people. When I first bought my house, I told the real estate agents, do not show me a house that doesn't have cable, because I have 4 kids and I'm not doing that. There are houses that they want to show me that still don't have it, and
Yeah.
my mortgage is almost paid off. And
Yeah.
when the cable companies would come in, they would want to, we're going to put in 3 miles more when they would do their franchise, we're going to put in 3 miles. Well, that could be 2 houses in a rural area. That's
Yeah.
nothing. So then, God forbid something happens to me, my husband's just going to disconnect it, because I'm always finagling it. I'm always, okay, we're changing it this month because I can get this cheaper deal. This is, it's a part-time job.
Yeah.
And I think it really, so to see that it's going to be equitable, that everyone should get it. Everyone should be able to access television, basic television, and to get their news and information. We don't even have newspapers anymore. They have to go on the internet. And these people can't do it.
Absolutely. You're reminding me, you're welcome. Thank you for coming. You're reminding me of a conversation actually that Dennis Doyle and I had back right after Hurricane Irene happened. We were actually in Saugerties at a public meeting, and I looked at my phone and I said, oh, blah, 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 road in Shandaken is closed. And he goes, how do you know that? And I said, oh, it's the watershed post on Twitter. But without that connectivity, we wouldn't have known it. So it really is absolutely critical. Any other folks experiencing, broadband? I'd love to hear if anybody here has gotten a quote, please come forward from Spectrum that seems outrageous. We would love a copy of that estimate.
My name is Patricia. I live on Broad Street Hollow, which is about a half a mile down. I happen to be lucky because my property is still in Ulster. But as you continue down Broad Street Hollow, it becomes green, and there are big mountains that separate the people on the hollow from Lexington, which is their town in green. So I actually work with a volunteer group called Catskill Neighbors, which deals with the issue of county boundaries all the time. And you're talking county. And I think that, most of us who live in this geography recognize that the people who are in this community are mostly Ulster, but they also are sometimes green just over that line. Those people have really struggled to get any kind of internet access. And I'm just asking, as you go forward, when you think about Ulster County, you think about these little weird hollows that really dead end, but for all intents and purposes, those people are getting all of their services, and their kids are going to school, and their post offices are all in Ulster. So I just would ask that you think broadly as you are moving forward about including those people and not being so confined strictly to the Ulster County lines. Thank you.
That's great. Thank you so much. What a great suggestion. If you wouldn't mind, we'd love a connection to Catskill Neighbors after the meeting. Maybe you can give us, contact information, because that would be really, really helpful. Do other folks have things that they've experienced?
I have a space that people come to frequently, and almost never is anybody able to get a cell phone signal or anything like that. And I understand, I'm not sure if it has been put into place yet, that there might be some sort of community Wi-Fi, something like that. And I was wondering if this program that you're putting together has any sort of thing, like, for instance, for tourism, for people who are coming to town that are accustomed to being able to access lots of stuff in the regular world, and then they come to this little cell phone oasis and really can't even get anywhere, do anything. And I personally like it. I don't have a cell phone, but I can see the need for people to be able to tap into something that is more universally available than maybe like fiber optics has come to Phoenicia. But can somebody from New York City that can't get a cell phone find a way to find that? And is there a way to bridge from when fiber access comes to the town and when people can actually access the benefit of that access?
Terrific.
You know what I mean?
Great comment. We actually mapped all public Wi-Fi in the county. We surveyed the county, tried to identify, I think we came up with over 30 different public Wi-Fi systems. I don't know if one of them was in Phoenicia, but I will definitely check. And people can access those resources through our website. There's like a broadband resource tab, and people can get to stuff through that. And I do think that it would be great to see public Wi-Fi in Phoenicia. Yeah.
Because even though this is serving the community, there's tourism that happens. And so people that aren't within the community also need to access this service.
Absolutely. Yeah. And it does help with tourism and other business. Yeah.
And we have Wi-Fi now at Glenbrook Park.
Glenbrook Park has Wi-Fi.
Glenbrook Park?
Yeah.
We now have, we've had it for a few months.
So send them out to
Open
the
network.
park.
Go to the park. More locations coming.
More locations to come. Excellent. Sir?
My name is Mike Ruane. I'm also on Broad Street Hollow here, and I want to encourage you to not be satisfied just getting connectivity, but to always be pursuing quality of service. And I'll give you two quick examples. On Broad Street Hollow, basically the entire hollow is one pipe into Spectrum. And I've noticed in the evening between 7 and 8, when we all download a movie, service gets much worse. And that's because we don't really have the bandwidth that they say we have, and we certainly don't all have it if we are in a storm situation or looking at relaxing for the evening at about the same time. The same thing happened in Phoenicia recently. The Catholic Church is sharing its Wi-Fi with the farmers market. And we had a situation, everyone in the market is doing their point of sale work over the internet, and we had an activity in the parish hall download or streaming a movie to a group. And of course, those again are a quality of service challenge. 2 people doing high demand, and both of them dropped out. The farmers market couldn't do their sales, the movie stopped in the hall, everything had to be rebooted. We're connected, but we don't have enough connectivity to do what people do at this point with their dependence on internet. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'd like to
Anyone
address
else?
that.
Yes.
I'd like to say a few things about your comments regarding spectrum slowing down. That's usually during the internet rush hour between 7 and 11 p.m., and they are known to throttle the speed that way. Ultimately, fiber would be superior to copper coaxial, fiber to home, that is, because fiber has a symmetrical architecture of the same download and upload speeds.
And what about the copper? Which is faster, download or upload?
Download is usually faster.
Okay.
Upload is, and this problem emerged, this inadequacy emerged during the pandemic when there was a lot of video conferencing. So there's this schism, in sending out and receiving.
Okay. Sir, did you want to make a comment?
Yes, hi. My
Hi.
name is Mark Foss. I also, with my wife, live on Broster Hollow, and we have exactly the same issue that Mike just said earlier. Drop off of the connection during at night, especially usually when we are looking for the news or something like that. And recently, with the storm we had, no internet, no phone, no electricity, so no way to connect to communicate with anyone. And then when the power comes back, we are with Spectrum. Spectrum says, "Oh, we had an outage, and now we are putting back the system," and we learn everything like that after the fact. So there's really something that should be fixed somewhere. That's it.
Thank you. Yeah, it's not just running the fiber or the cable, it's making sure that it actually provides enough bandwidth to meet the community need. Yeah. Anyone else from the community who has something to share? I really appreciate you guys coming out tonight. We're soliciting comment from folks right now. If you have any experience, trying to access broadband or cellular, we'd love to hear your comment. Yeah.
It's Beth Waterman.
Hi, I'm Beth Waterman. I live in Big Indian. I have no cell service at my house. I am fortunate that I have Margaretville Telephone Company providing service to the upper portion of Rose Mountain Road because Spectrum stopped halfway up and wouldn't expand. But Margaretville Telephone stepped in and saved that. So I have good fiber optics, but no cell service.
Thank you. Yeah, please. Dennis. No, please do. This is Dennis Doyle, our Director of Planning.
My name is Dennis Doyle, I'm the Planning Director, and I just wanted to touch on some of the points that March raised. I want to thank the Controller and the Commission very much for all their efforts. It's a difficult topic, and it involves a lot of people and a lot of detail that is really difficult to get together and put things out. I wanted to ask a couple of questions and say a few things. One is that March mentioned the fact that we have Wi-Fi mapping around the county. county is going through a budget process, and some of that budget process, we have the digital budget that Mark produced, that the commission produced. The point being is now's the time to start to ask. And so if you have the sense that there are public places where Wi-Fi will benefit, whether it be a library, a town hall, a fire department, or something of that nature, now's the time to tell us, and we can start to look at how that works from a budget standpoint. So if you could get back to March on that, or back to me on that, that would be very helpful. The other thing I wanted to just mention is that one of the things that came out of the discussions with the Digital Commission was the idea of the training necessary, particularly as it relates to seniors. So the planning department has made an ask for the budget department to expand. Seniors have a limited training program right now in the Office of Aging. The planning department has asked the budget department to include additional funding within the Office of Aging to expand that training program so that it's out there and it goes to senior centers and other areas so that we can have that program expanded. If you think that there's an opportunity to start to think about what's available for equipment, et cetera, I want to take that back and have a conversation with our IS department and see what we do. And we regularly change out computers and see what we can do with respect to those computers to see whether we can make those available or not available. But we need to know that there's an actual demand for those and how that demand would work. I also wanted to touch, and I'm taking too much time.
No, not at all. You're fine.
I also wanted to touch on the cell phone coverage issue because we believe that that's a critical issue. That the Emergency Services Department in Ulster County, working with the planning department, is trying to figure out where are the best places to not only provide emergency service coverages, but also to make sure that when we do those types of things, that we design our towers so that they can support cell phone coverage. I will tell you that we're currently looking at 4 locations within the community or close to the community that essentially would be sites for new towers so that we can essentially provide reach for those emergency service responders, particularly when they're out of their vehicles responding to emergencies. We're looking at that. The other thing that we're looking at with respect to that, we're currently conducting feasibility studies on those. How do we get to them? How far do we have to go? Can I meet some of the requirements from New York City watershed as it relates to stormwater work? We are currently in a design process to expand the tower on Conchie Mountain, which is in the town of Olive. We have done tower loading studies on that. We've taken a look at that. We have made a conclusion that the existing tower would not be sufficient to essentially handle the additional work that we need the tower to handle as it relates to some of our equipment and also some of the equipment. So we're going back to the drawing board on that, looking at an adjoining site to essentially build adjacent to that tower, and then going through that necessary design process. I would also add that the Connect Ball study is going to basically require the state to produce a digital plan or a broadband plan. The difficulty with that is, like anything that we do at the level that involves state, federal government, and local governments, the time frames are long.
Yeah.
So we don't anticipate that plan will be done until the end of this year, and then you're looking at a substantial amount of time before that money will start to roll out. So I want you to start to think about interim solutions, which is why I mentioned Wi-Fi, but I want you to think about what else we could do here to start to improve some of your service and access, whether it's at the library level, whether it's at the fire department level, whatever it is. We want to try to make sure we have interim solutions to this, and can bring those interim solutions not only to our own budget department and our own people, but also to the legislators and those at the state level that represent you. So thank you very much. I do want to basically give a shout out to Margaretville Telephone. We're a little company that can, and we appreciate that.
Thank you so much, Dennis. Dennis, I'm going to follow up with you about regulations on tower siting that I can share with Stephanie after the meeting. Yeah. I did want to mention also, Christina, that Phoenicia Library has Wi-Fi. So if you have people come by and if they're in Phoenicia and they're looking for Wi-Fi, they can approach the library. We're thrilled that the library, because of Margaretville Telephone Service, has been able to expand what they're offering. So it's really been a great thing. Are there any other comments? Any public comments? Yeah, please.
I have just one one more that I thought of while we were all talking and listening. I homeschool my children, and so internet access is really important to us because we do a lot of our learning through online resources, all different kinds of resources. But that's us as a homeschooler. I know that during the pandemic, a lot of the children that are schooled, through Phoenicia Elementary and many other schools also had to access their education through online portals. And many people did not have access. Many people had to drive places to get free Wi-Fi to have access. Yeah. And I'm just curious if in some of this sort of outreach and fiber optics to all the people, if there could be maybe a segment or someone to look at perhaps offering reduced connectivity programs, inclusive connectivity programs for people who are either in school or have children that are in school, because it's difficult for us to afford an incredibly huge spectrum bill. Not to mention if you accidentally watch an HBO movie and then all of a sudden are subscribed, and it's right. Not really hard. I know you can put children's codes in and things like that, but there's also adults who just whatever. But an access program for children, in school, out of school, homeschool, whatever, and if there could be like a fund for that, I think that would be a really interesting thing to advocate for as a mother.
Thank you.
I just have one last. So,
Hi.
Fox Hollow Road, Bacon. As Dennis was talking about places for Wi-Fi, it occurred to me that trailheads would be a really good location. Yes. Because there are people, they don't get cell service, they don't know where they are, they often end up on Fox Hollow. They often end up on the Fox Hollow Road from not the Fox Hollow trailhead. They don't know where they are. They come to my door, they knock. We have to figure out how to help them get back to Oliveria Road or Woodland Valley Road where they made a wrong turn. But trailheads.
Great suggestion. Thank you, New York State. They should help us with that.
I'd like to bring up one other point, please. Perhaps you can help. Again, I'm in Chichester, and we have very, very frequent electrical outages, storms, hurricanes, you name it. And when the electricity is out, we have no form of communication. I mean, all these internet warnings that are sent out, we have no access to. As a 72-year-old, I'm very concerned about medical emergencies for myself. And the only offering I was given was to get a Verizon landline. I'm already paying for an internet phone. I'm paying for a cell phone. Verizon, first of all, wouldn't even put in a landline at this point. And if they did, they wanted some exorbitant fee of $70 a month plus payment for each call. Is there any type of technology that could be instituted for those of us that don't have cell service to use for emergency contact?
Satellite phone.
Satellite phone,
Well,
yeah.
Satellite phone, but they're not cheap either, and
Right.
it's the there's different kinds. They're getting better in prices, but it's the monthly fees for them.
I mean, I appreciate all that you're doing. It's wonderful, but we're just in the forgotten zone, and it's pathetic. Thank you.
I understand what you're saying, and it's not even just where you're located. I live in Rosendale. I have cellular, I have broadband, but during the ice storm, we lost all connectivity, and what happened was people just went where they thought they should go, and dozens of people showed up at the Rosendale Recreation Center because they thought it was a Red Cross emergency shelter. It wasn't. And we were trying to feed and, provide sleeping arrangements for people, and they had no connectivity. They had no broadband, they had no cellular, they had no landline.
That's us.
Yeah, and they were not far from...
In the rural areas where I live, even the wind will knock out the
Yeah.
electricity.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments before we sort of close and move to next steps? Oh, yes, please.
Hey, everybody.
Thanks, James.
Sorry. My name's James. I live in Phoenicia. I figure I'll share a story of not having broadband, since most people here had broadband. So I moved here in 2018, and if you sit in my kitchen, you can see a pole with electricity and phone on it, or it was phone. And so when I moved here, I assumed that I could put a broadband on it because everything else was on it. When I called Spectrum, they quoted me $8,500 to put broadband to my house. And I said, "That's got to be an error." Like, I couldn't believe it. I thought maybe like if you pay that, then it was free for your lifetime after that. Maybe.
And tell her where you live. You're on Route
I live
Old
on Plank
28.
Road,
Plank Road, Old
Plank
28.
Road. So
The buses go through there.
My electricity comes across the creek, and every neighbor down Plank Road has Spectrum. So it's like crazy to me that was the case. I didn't know what to do, and so I sent an email to every single elected official that represented me in every part of every government, and I got pointed to Dennis Doyle, right there, who was the only one who got me service. So he said, pass through the PSC, it's a state entity, so it's the Public Service Commission. And so then I spent probably 7 or 8 months going, I would say, twice a week, emailing between Spectrum and PSC people to try to figure out why my bill was so high and what was going on and what the deal was. It turns out that the person, I mean, no one should have a bill that much anyways, but the reason why I could see a telephone pole with phone and power, but they thought that it wasn't there, was because their maps were incorrect. And they didn't know that I guess they thought I didn't even have electricity, I don't know, but they didn't know that they could just come in so closely. And so it took over a year, about 1.5 years from the point that I bought my house until we actually were able to get in there. But we were eventually, and it got knocked down to zero. It ended up costing nothing. And I mean, now I pay $85 a month, so that's expensive. But it was a real process. And then after that, I started telling people my story, like, oh, this was a crazy thing that happened to me. And then eventually it got knocked down to zero. And then I would get random calls from people, all over town. Hey, I heard you got service. How did you get service?
Yes.
And I said, oh, well, what happened? Oh, they want $14,500. They want $12,000. They want $26,000. Like, it's crazy how much they're trying to charge folks. And my understanding is, based on random calls that I get, is that it's getting better. I don't know if the money has gone directly to Spectrum or what, but they seem to be offering more people service than before. But I don't know, it's crazy. And the amount of rigmarole that I had to go through, I don't think, I mean, it was, I don't think it was achievable. I mean, it's like insane what what the process was. I am now, and I just hope, most people can get it in the future, so.
Thank you, James. If you do have any contacts in the community who are getting outrageous estimates from Spectrum, we are collecting them. We would love to have them. You're right, the squeaky wheel absolutely gets the grease. And we're here to tell you that this commission and the comptroller's office plan to be 100% squeaky as we move forward to make sure that we get our fair share of broadband funding, so we can work with partners like Margaretville Telephone to really make sure that we're all served. Thank you guys so much tonight for coming out. We do have to break up the meeting so that we can let the Shandaken Town Board meet, but I wanted to just remind you, we have some materials up here. Take if you don't have an agenda. We have a county directory. We have some stuff from the state Office of State Comptroller, and if you want help looking up your unclaimed funds, we'll be around for the next few minutes. Let us know. Otherwise, we can help you, send you a link, and you can do it yourself online. Thank you guys so much for coming out today. Thank you. Appreciate it.
We're well represented.
Yeah, very interesting meeting.